Oh, I'm live. Hey, thank you guys for joining. I'm trying to see if okay, I'm going to go live on Instagram as well. Okay. Hi, my name is Celeste. I'm a therapist from Boston. And if you are watching me on the replay, thank you for checking me out. I come on once a month with Jeff Rogers, and we open up and we answer your questions about relationships. And so I'm going to add him to the stream now. Let's add you to the stream. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you today?
Delightful. Good to see you, Celeste.
Um, Jeff and I are in New England, and the weather is like doing crazy stuff. It was so nice the other day. Today it was freezing.
Not
Um,
not a fan, but we do what we do. I don't know why. I mean, I know that there's, I know Barbados exists. I don't know why I don't move there. It is what it is.
so, Jeff Rogers, can you please tell people who you are and what you do?
Sure, since you're going to say my whole government like that, I'm I'm an executive coach. So what that really means is I help people get out of their own way, learn how to be their best selves. I do this for whether it's companies like a whole organization or a team within a company or just one leader. And that's basically what I do. Sometimes the way I put it is I teach people how to work with assholes without being an asshole.
Why did you get into this work, actually?
Why did I? Well, uh, it's a long story, but to make it short, I worked in places in my past life, my past career. I worked in places where the stakes were very high. People's lives, or definitely their quality of life, was at stake, and it would kill me to look around and see that our dysfunction was having outcomes on children, on families. I hated it. I hated that. And when I would fight it, I would meet resistance, and I would find out it's not that other people don't necessarily see it. In some ways, they almost want it this way. In other words, the dysfunction isn't some oversight. They see it as a feature. And so I made it my life's work to try to figure out how do I untie those knots. And eventually I found out that that's a career called management consulting, executive coaching, all that stuff. I didn't know that when I started on my little quest, but that's what happened.
We got to sign you up for a medal, an award. We got to sign you up for
We got to sign me up for what?
award.
Oh, for a medal, right? Right, Captain Saving Org, right? Exactly. That's
Okay, let's get started with these questions. I'm gonna save the long one for last. Okay, so our first question says, I have been seeing a guy for 5 years. It started off with us just having fun and it began to be more serious. I'm afraid to ask about future plans he may have and do not want to ruin what we have. What is the best way to broach the subject?
So let's just say usually you have it written at the bottom, but you didn't do that this time. Okay. All right. So what are the idea? You start off, it's nothing, it's not that serious. You're having fun, which sounds like maybe going out to eat and then going in the bedroom. That's oftentimes what having fun means. Sometimes going out to eat is optional. Then after a while, you say, man, I really like this. I want to do more. I want to be more. But if I bring it up, is that going to ruin it? Because he's going to see, there you go. Always bring it up. Why can't you just, you know what I mean? Why women got to ruin everything? Well,
It's so tough.
right. Well,
Because you're human and you have feelings and they may change.
So in an alternative world, right? I guess one question is, can you be happy just doing this, but forever? Now, you probably wouldn't be writing in to an advice podcast if you didn't at least want to know if your dream, your little chance could occur. So I think it is something worth discussing, right? That's what I think. Now, remember, I said discussing, not that's different from an ultimatum or whatever it is. But you could say, and women have been having this conversation probably since caveman days, but say, what do you think about being more? What do you think about doing more? What do you think about, do you see me or do you see us as the kind of thing that could, I'm saying anything, move in together, have kids, have a title, whatever it is that's important to you in this, and see what he says. And then once you communicate, you know where both of you kind of, because you know what you feel, and you know what he says at least. And then you go from that to knowing, like, okay, are me and this person aiming at the same thing? Right. And you kind of decide from there. Like, if we're aiming at the same thing, then we can keep going. If we're not, then I have to choose how long we're going to do this before I decide that this is pulling me away from my actual aim. The one thing I would argue that you shouldn't do, which is also very common, and Celeste, I think you'll agree with this, which is, let's say he goes, I want this and nothing else. And you go, okay, that's fine with me. I love this. Then you go, and now to change him, to secretly change him, I'm going to do move A and move B and move C. And I'll try to make him jealous, or I'll try to wow him with my amazing whatever. And I'll change
Cooking.
my cooking. I'll try to change his mind. And eventually he'll give me what I want. And I would argue that that is the only wrong way to go. What do you think, Celeste?
Yeah, I agree. I have these conversations a lot, and I kind of broach it the way you talk about it as well. Is like, um, if you're not going to be happy with this long term, think about what you really want. The hard part is that nobody talks about is that uh, being with somebody for this 5 years is a long time, right? Regardless of what it is, to undo that is a loss of a relationship. And so I talk about like the process of maybe having to grieve that relationship that may no longer exist. But I think sometimes people want a way that's not going to feel hard. And in this situation, especially like what you said, when you write in, it's kind of like you've been thinking about it, and you don't want to spend your time thinking about it, because I've seen numerous of situations where somebody has spent a long time with somebody, and after they finally was like, you know what, I can't take it no more, this person gets with somebody else. 9 months later, they're engaged. uh Talk about a slap to the face. That would feel hard. I seen a lady talk about this on TikTok and shared her brother did something like what the example I gave, and she asked her brother why, and he said that uh the person of 9 months didn't put up with the stuff that the other person put up. Kind of like that first person built them up, and then now they're all set. And that's why people don't want to leave too. It's like, I do all this work. I don't want to let that work go down the drain. You know what I mean? I think that's what people be thinking.
Right. Carla B said, I saw that. No, Carla, that was you. So the thing is, the only other thing I would caution against is, and even we just said, we saw something on TikTok or whatever it is. Keep in mind that there's a difference between what it is that you want for your life and what you think you should have because the world has
Mm,
certain opinions. And by that I mean, if marriage, it's perfectly fine for marriage to be important to you or for it not to be important to you. But if you say, well, a woman my age should be married, or if you've been with someone for 5 years, you should be married, something like that, I say throw that in the garbage, right? Because what's most important is what works for you. Maybe there's some food item, right? You put I don't know, mustard on toast and eat it, and other people think that that's weird. But if it tastes good to you, it tastes good. And so I don't personally care. You've been seeing the guy 5 years. Is that a long time or a little time? If everyone's happy, it's a perfectly fine time. The only reason
right.
we're talking about this is because you potentially are becoming less happy or less satisfied. And the question is, to what percentage of that is uh, organic from your own life, and what percentage is, let's say, my cousin dated a guy for 4 years and they got married. So
That's
now
good.
we've been seeing each other for 5. So now I'm like weirdly jealous of what my cousin has or something like
That's
that.
good. That's a good caveat to add. I'm glad you raised that, because a lot of times what people think they want is what other people say they should have. And marriage is not the ultimate goal for everyone. And in this case, it could be maybe you're living separate. Maybe you eventually want to move in together, right? People have long lasting relationships without, Dr. Umar says the white man's paper. No.
Right. Right. And remember, at Celeste Therapist Podcast, we say always listen to Dr. Umar. Whatever he says, donate to his school. I'm sure they're going to build it
I'm
any day.
sorry. I don't know why I
Any
got off
day. The
topic.
guy's been building a school for 10 years. And
Why
all the
did
kids who
you
built the school would have graduated by now. But hopefully he don't see this. He's gonna
I
he's
know.
he's gonna attack my half-breed status. I can feel it already. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. It marriage, as an example, and this person did not mention marriage, but I use it because it's something a lot of people feel strongly about. Marriage is not an accomplishment. I'm not saying marriage is bad, but it's not an accomplishment because you can get married. Celeste, well, you're married, but you could get divorced and then you and me could get married the next day. We could just get married. And you can marry a stranger and you can marry somebody just for a green card and you can go to Vegas and marry someone you met in the casino. Marriage is not anything. A long lasting reciprocal relationship is incredible. And you can get married or not. And so it's just something to keep in mind that there's no milestone that should be prescribed. But for yourself, yes. Carla says you're not marrying me. Well, I'm not marrying you. I'm not marrying you. And even and that's why you don't have a green card. Not only that, not am I not marrying you, but you're going back. All right, next question.
All right. So letter writer, hopefully that was helpful. I'm glad Jeff added that last part, especially for other people too. Even if it's not about a relationship or about something else, really be mindful. It could be about a kid. It could be, there's so many people that think that this like American dream is something that they want. And especially 29 to 30 years old is when people really start struggling. I realize a lot of people start because your friends are in different spaces of their life. And then now like you could be perfectly fine, but all of a sudden 29 comes and then you're about to be 30. You're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing with my life? Like you were fine last year.
If it's important to you, it
Yeah,
is. But do the work of separating you in your mind from it's important to me to have esteem in the opinion of strangers, I guess, people that go to my mother's church. I'm going to make a decision like this because my cousins back in Haiti who
Right.
don't call me, all they call me to do is send blue barrels, but now they're judging that I'm not man. No, that's not a good
No,
reason to go.
exactly.
That's not
Yeah.
because other people are not, they'll act like one way, then they'll live the life they want to live. So I say you live the life you want to live too. But if it is important to you, you do it.
Yeah, exactly. Next question. What is the best way to start a routine? I'm 25, single, and working full time. I'm having a hard time because I don't have much happening in my life. I want to work on my finances and my health, but every time I start, I find myself having a hard time keeping up with my plan. I cannot seem to find the motivation. I would appreciate any tips you have.
This is of all the questions we ever got. So let's usually I say who wants to go first, but if I may, this is
Oh,
the
of
most
course. This is your bag. This is Jeff's bag.
executive coach question you could ever ask. This is what an executive coach does. And so let me tell you what I would do if you came to me, letter writer. So there's so much in here. Oh my God. So thing number
Jeff is getting off on this
one, I would say,
question.
okay. I am. I'm thrilled because you don't always have a good answer, but sometimes you do.
Yeah.
So thing number one, I would say, okay, letter writer. It right now it's let's say it's March 1st is what it basically is. Today's March 1st. Okay. Okay, you close your eyes, you go to bed. When you wake up, it is now September 1st. Okay. And everything that you want to accomplish in 6 months, you've done it. You've accomplished 6 months worth of it. So if you want to get rich, for example, you wouldn't be all the way rich because 6 months is pretty short time, but you've made progress. What does that look like, letter writer? What does that look like? Right. And so have you lost weight? Have you gained muscle? Have you started your own business? Have you started taking that photography certificate? Whatever it is, right? That's how we identify your vision. That's your vision for success. We know what success looks like because it's not up to me, right? It's not up to Celeste what you do, but we identify your vision. So okay, the me that's killing it in September, I would be doing this. Why do we pick September and not 10 years? Because we want something that is like short enough to be realistic. We don't know what's going to happen in 10 years. Remember when you never heard of COVID before? Remember when the idea that Donald Trump would be president? Remember that was like a crazy thought, right? So we can't go 10 years in the future. 6 months is realistic. Then the next thing you go, okay, well, you're not going to go to bed and wake up in 6 months. You're going to go to bed and wake up tomorrow. So the question is, what can you do to start marching towards that vision, right? What can you do? I'm going to just use fitness because almost everybody has a fitness goal or a weight goal. Almost everybody does. So, Okay, you want to have lost 20 pounds in 6 months. Okay, fine. So you can't lose 20 pounds in a day, but you can definitely lose 20 pounds in 6 months. 20 pounds in 6 months is only, what is it? It's, 2.5 pounds a month or something like that, right? So here's what you do. What are you going to do to lose 2.5 pounds this month? Are you going to start going to the gym? Are you going to start walking? You're going to do your diet? Then you break it down. We're going from your vision to a goal to objectives. Your objectives are something like, I will go to the gym 3 days this week. Not I will lose weight. I don't know but I'm going to hit that gym 3 days. And you figure out how to do it. Now, you just break it down like that. You do not say, I'm going to lose 20 pounds in 6 months. That's the vision. But you say, I'm going to go to the gym 3 days a week for a month. That's it. And then what comes next? The last part of this is, see that word motivation? Throw it in the garbage. That word stinks. Motivation is a feeling, and the feeling comes and goes. You know, when you watch a karate movie, if you're like me, then you walk out and you think, I kind of know karate. You start jump kicking the sky. When I was a kid, start jump kicking the sky. Hi-ya! Right? Because at that moment, after you just watch Raphael and Donatello jump kick Shredder, you
Three
think you
Little
know karate and
Ninjas
you
was
think you
my
care about.
show.
Right, exactly. You think you're going to do all that. That's motivation. You're temporarily motivated. What we're talking about is commitment and discipline. So when you say I'm going to go to the gym for 3 days a week, and then you decide it's going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or whatever you decide, what you then do, you don't get up and say something like, do I feel like going to the gym? What the fuck are you talking about? There's no feel. There's no feel. I said that I will be going to the gym Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's what I said. It has nothing to do with my feeling. There's no decision to make. I made this decision on March 1st. That's when I made it. There's no thinking. I will go to the gym. Give yourself some permission if you want. You say, yo, I'll go to the gym and do a bad job. Like instead of running 2 miles, I'll go to the gym and run half a mile. Fine. But the only way to fail is to not go. And if you go, you succeeded. And if you do that, you know what you're going to find out when you get to the gym and you do it most days? Now that you're already there, you'll do it. Forget about feeling motivated. Nobody feels motivated all the time. Celeste, would you describe how you felt right before we logged on as feeling motivated to do this show?
Why are you telling my business?
Right. No one wants, you guys, it's 8 o'clock at night and we worked all day. No one wants to do this.
I was
No,
driving my son around like a freaking taxi.
right. I know you. But here's the thing. Me and Celeste didn't decide we were going to do this show tonight. We decided we were going to do this show 3 weeks ago. And we put it in the calendar and we advertised it. And that's that. There's no thinking. I didn't say maybe I'll bullshit on Celeste. I did not say that because I wrote it down. I will do it. Celeste, am I right about this? I don't want to. You know what I like? I like ice cream, video games. I like boobs. These are things that I like that motivate me every day. Every day. I like them just as much tomorrow as I do today. Everything else I do because I'm disciplined and committed. So I know that was long, but that's like executive coaching 101. And if you do that, 25-year-old, if you can master this basic process, you will be able to achieve anything that you can achieve. You will max your potential.
Carl is singing your praises. I have a question for people that may be wondering why the vision, right? Why is it important to like visualize and name the vision for people that may, because the way you broke it down is so on point. And I think people don't visualize the vision, so they just get stuck.
Right. So I'll give you an example. People would say, I got a goal. And I'll say, okay, what's the goal? I say, I want to go to therapy. And I'll say, that is not a goal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That is a process or an intervention, right? To say I want to go to therapy is a intervention, but what are you trying to achieve? So I would take that and I would say, okay, you've gone to therapy for a year. Celeste has really helped you, and everything you hope to get out of therapy, you got it. Mm-hmm. What's changed? They say from now on, I'm not so anxious that I can't call my mom, or I'm not so depressed that I call out sick from work for a week at a time. It was okay. So your real goal is to achieve blah, blah, blah. And then what are all the interventions we could do? Well, one thing is therapy and another thing is whatever, but you have to visualize where you're actually trying to go. Going to therapy is not it's not like a vision of success, but it is an objective. It is a milestone. You say, I'm going to commit. Just like we said, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week. You could say, I'm going to go to therapy twice a month. Not I'm going to be cured. Not I'm going to feel better. I've committed that I'm going to talk to Celeste for an hour every other week, and I am going to do that. And if I do it, I
Mhm.
succeeded. If I don't, I failed.
Yeah. Okay, good. And then the next thing I just want to say, another important point you brought up is being realistic with your goals or the objectives. I remember when I was going to the gym, I was trying to lose weight after I had my daughter, and I was going to Burger King's after. I always tell the story, and then I realized I know. I
It's
was getting the number one. I was getting number one. Um, and then I realized I wasn't losing weight because I was eating all that. And so I was like, okay, then let me fix it. Let me buy. I brought mad greens. I would, this is before I used to cook. I didn't know they went to waste, right? So I tried to like create this grandiose plan, and then I realized that why don't you just start with breakfast? Right. And so I was being very unrealistic. I couldn't cook. I wasn't into greens. I was into Wendy's and Burger King's. And so I started to be realistic. When I wanted to work out, I was being realistic. I just started with walking. When people talk about like, oh, I got to do, I was like, why don't you just start with walking? And I feel like society, and the way corporate America, I mean, not the capitalism, the way they create things is that you need these things to get to where you need to be. Sometimes they are helpful, but if you don't have it, if you can't afford the gym, you can literally go out and walk outside, right? And then when it comes to like wellness, as far as the foods that you're eating, you can literally just start something small. You don't have to like mess yourself up by trying to change. And the reason why that's powerful for your mind to like be like, okay, I wasn't going to the gym at all. I'm not going to say I'm about to do 7 days because that's like that's not realistic. But if I say I'm going to do 2 to 3 days, that's more realistic. And then I start to have my mind see that I'm capable of it. But if I say 7 days and I don't go 7 days, my mind be like, all right, look, you see, you can't do it, right? So the tips that Jeff gave are so powerful because what you're doing is helping your mind recalibrate.
I love everything that is exactly true. And notice that Celeste said first she's going to the gym, but she's still going to Burger King. And
That was what,
but then it's slowly real. Oh, now that you became like a gym person, like you actually like once they know you're there, you kind
yeah,
of know your routine. Then you said, oh damn, now I got to add one more thing. Now that I can do this, now I'm going to add one more thing, which is now I'm going to cut out the Burger King. I'm not going to cut out eating, but I'm going to cut out Burger King. And instead of
yeah,
a large fry, and you could even do it like that and say, if I go to Burger King, I can only get one thing. So there's no reason to buy a number one. Buy either a Whopper or fries. Now, I'm not saying Whopper fries is good for you, but if you can cut out 500 calories a day, which is
yeah,
fries are like at least 500 calories, that would
yeah,
be an incredible step towards what we're talking about.
yeah.
And then slowly but surely you get better at it. Instead of expecting that, you wouldn't say, I'm gonna take up painting, and so I'm gonna paint the Mona Lisa this month. You would understand first I got to get brushes and kind of learn even how to mix paint. So you got to give yourself that grace of incrementalism. The
Mhm.
phrase I like is you eat an elephant the same way you eat a sandwich, one bite at a time.
And me and Carla, we share watches, so her watch probably goes off every time I'm finished. I would
Uh,
be turning that thing off. It's at 5 a.m. I'm at the gym. If 10 years ago, if you was like, yo, Celeste, you're gonna be at the gym at 5, I promise you, I would have been like, you lying. um,
I thought Carla was saying she'd be at Burger King at 5 a.m. That's not good, but okay.
I'm gonna read our last question. It's very long. I put it in the chat for you, Jeff, so you can see the full thing. Um, so it says, "Hi, I'm a 33 year old female, and I am all right. I didn't read this before, so I think it's a little okay. So, hi, I'm 33 female, dating a male 35. We had really slow start to our relationship, including patches of on and off talking, dating. I love to hear both of your perspective on opposite sex friendships. During a period of time where we didn't speak, I met a really good friend, and it said on a dating app. Me and this friend talked over the span of a year and a half and built a strong connection. When me and my now boyfriend decided to get into a more serious relationship, he gave me an ultimatum. He pretty much said he would not be in my life if I continued to keep this friendship. His reasoning was I lied on multiple occasions about hanging out with this friend in which he saw or found out about. I cut off my friend. There is a female friend of his that he has, that I have voiced, that makes me feel I'm assuming it says uncomfortable, because when I
Yeah.
cut my friend off, I was under the impression that he would be putting major distance on this friend, not blocking her, in quotations. Now
Mhm.
he is refusing to put any major distance on this friend,
Mhm.
texting her Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Not Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. That's only 7 days apart.
Sorry. And this friend has had numerous conversations with him about her dating experiences and wishing she could meet someone having kids with, etc. The closeness, intimacy they share does not sit right with me, and I believe there was an attraction between them at some point. I also would like to add that this friend is a long-standing friend that was not in his life in the beginning of our relationship, because she cut their friendship off because her boyfriend at the time was not comfortable with their friendship. So the question is, am I being toxic? Am I the problem? Can you guys talk about reasonable boundaries and opposite sex friendships while in a relationship?
All right.
I hope I explained that really clear.
I'm gonna try to summarize it, and then
Yeah,
Celeste.
that would be good. You're good at
So
that.
so she has a boyfriend that their boyfriend and girlfriend now. That they're boyfriend and girlfriend now, but they started slow. They've even were on and off at the beginning. During that time, she met a guy on a dating app, and they became friends. Like they developed a relationship. But when the guy who's now the boyfriend reappeared, she chose him. Eventually, the current boyfriend caught her lying at least twice and saying, "Oh, I'm going XYZ," but really was hanging out with this dating app friend. So he said, "Oh, you out here lying and hanging with this guy and you met him on a dating app? Cut it off." She did so. Meanwhile, he has a friend that he's known for a long time, but they were apart because she had a boyfriend that said no male friends. Now that she and that boyfriend broke up, she is now back friends with this boyfriend guy. And our girl is saying, "Hey, you should be cutting her off. You're texting her crazy things like happy birthday and, Merry Christmas. That's crazy talk. You might as well be hitting on her or she's hitting on you. Cut it off." And so she wants us to say who's unreasonable. So Celeste, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack. I want to start with saying that she never said that he was wrong about her lying around the situation of her sneaking around talking to this person. Like, not that something was going.
That as a confession that she was
Yeah,
saying he caught me. She didn't say he accused. She said he caught me.
right. So, and it doesn't mean that you were doing anything, but maybe because you knew how he felt, you was just trying to keep it separate as much as possible. So this is not a accusation about doing anything, but the optics. That's first part. What are your thoughts about that?
I think you're exactly right that once you lied, you lose the moral high ground to say, "How dare you question my honesty? My
Yeah.
integrity means everything to me. Yes, I lied." Like, all right, then why would I
And I
trust you?
think for this person, because nothing was going on, it's really hard to reconcile with it, because it's like, well, I did this thing for you, but the thing was axed because of all of the optics of what it looked like. But you said yes. You didn't have to say yes. What are your thoughts about that? Uh,
You said yes, you didn't have to, and it doesn't sound like the rule was we agree not to have opposite sex friendships.
that's
What I think I'm doing is I don't like you being around this guy because this guy is you met him on a dating app and you be lying about seeing him. So
yeah,
that's two strikes. Meeting on the dating apps already an indication that
yeah.
he is what they sometimes call in the manosphere, whatever it is, an orbiter. Have you heard that term before, Celeste? An orbiter?
Mm-mm. No.
Well, you'll be familiar with the idea. A guy that hangs around a woman, and they out loud they say we're friends, but in reality, he's waiting for an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Frankly, there are at least some women or some instances where the woman is aware of this, even if they haven't openly spoken about it. And she goes, "Well, you're like a good replacement or a good alternative or whatever it is." So there's a lot to indicate that this guy could be orbiting in that way. Let's be honest. Even if you met on a dating app, so at least at one point there was romantic interest. I'm not saying you can never go from romantic interest to truly platonic friends,
Right.
but more frequently would be one person says no and the other person says, "Oh wait." It's like being on it's like, you got any tables? No, but you can sit at the bar.
Right. And because it says he pretty much said he would not be in my life if I continue this friendship. And so I cut him off, right? So now the other part that I want to point out for you, letter writer, is you said when I cut my friend off, I was under the impression that he would be putting major distance on this friend, which sounds like that friend was already in this person's life. And being under the impression, this is a common thing that happens in relationships. Jeff talks about it a lot, about um, things that people assume are supposed to go down. Go ahead.
Implicit contracts, right? An
Mhm.
implicit contract where for a common one would be if the guy takes you out and pays for dinner, then he sometimes a man might try to get this could happen in any gender, but you know what I
Mhm.
mean.
Yeah, yeah,
Tries to launch an implicit contract. I bought you lobster, so of course we're gonna go park
right.
and make out
Yeah.
because we had a deal, but we didn't have a deal. And I can have lobster and not make out with you. That would be an implicit contract. And of course, it's kind of ugly because you would never say, if I buy you this lobster, then you owe me at least second base. You would never
Right.
say that.
Right.
So because of that, it's ugly to implicitly deal it too.
Yeah.
She's indicating that I thought you'd be putting distance between this person. If he said that, then that's all you got to say. But that's
Mhm.
not what I'm hearing. I'm
Yeah.
hearing you kind of thought if I do this, you'll do that, which is not the same.
Right. 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 And I just want to say, this is a common thing that happens in relationships where people assume certain things happen and not just intimate relationships, even friendships or other type of relationships where it's like, well, I always drive your kid to basketball practice. You can't just pick up mines, right? So this common thing, that's why this segment is called Let's Talk About Relationships, because you'll find a lot of common themes in all of your relationships, when you're struggling. It never feels, I've been in this field for a long time working with people, and I start pointing out the areas that are similar. So it's not just the ones where it's your partner. You might find yourself, if you look at the other areas of your life, I'm sure there are other areas where you find yourself doing that.
A decent person would, a real woman would, a
Right.
good friend would. You start
Yeah.
saying that, and it's like, well, I don't remember us cutting that deal necessarily.
Right. Right.
So here's the thing: when I hear this question, that last part where you say, "Well, I thought you were going to put major distance," okay, but did he say that? And then the question is there a rule where you're not allowed to have male friends, but he is allowed to have female friends, or is it that guy dating app friend? That guy is banned from a combination of dating app and a combination of dating app and lying, because just the lying, I would say, is a pretty big red flag from
Mhm.
the boyfriend's perspective.
Mhm.
Because if I use right now, if Celeste goes, "Oh, I'm doing the podcast," and then her husband goes like, "Oh, makes perfect sense to me," then he finds out actually I was hanging with Stefan.
Mhm.
You said you're doing the podcast. Well, I didn't want you to get mad. That sounds
Right.
crazy. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like, no. So you're sneaking around with Stefan? No. And you might have a special prohibition against Stefan, not just Celeste can never look another man in the eye again. That's
Mhm.
not necessarily misogyny or overly controlling. That boundary actually makes some sense to me. Really,
Mhm.
I wouldn't really blame Stefan
Mhm.
or dating app friend. I really blame the dishonest person. Really,
Mhm.
I might say I don't consider you trustworthy enough to be in a committed relationship. But
Mhm.
if you chose not to, then I guess you could say, well, then you can never go there again.
Mhm.
But if he says you can't look any men in the eye or something like that, then you say, well, but you can have a female friend, but I can't have a male friend. I
Right.
understand that,
Right.
but you're not saying that either. You seem to be saying I got caught red-handed, lying a bunch of times.
Mhm.
And now the dude says, don't hang with the dude you lied to me about, and you're like, well, you don't hang with a woman either. It's not the gender is not
Yeah.
the issue, it's the dishonesty, right?
Right. And then I'm just breaking this apart and I'm gonna get to your question, letter writer. But it says the closeness, intimacy they share does not sit right with me. And I believe there was an attraction between them at some point. The reason why this can get dangerous is because you start to believe something and then your mind will play tricks on you and it looks like that, right? You say like they talk about wanting to have kids. I thought she was gonna say with somebody like you, but she didn't. But the things that they talk about, right? And so, because of how you're framing it in your head and you're struggling with the fact that you cut off a friend and they didn't, you might start seeing signs, not that there are, but you'll see signs that make you struggle a little bit. What are your thoughts about that part?
Right, you can definitely, kinda gaslight yourself that it's more than 100 years old, the story, The Telltale Heart. It's, a guy murders somebody, puts him under the floorboard, then he thinks he can hear the guy's heart beating, and it beats
Yep. Yep.
louder, louder, then finally he says, "I did it, I can't take it," but of course, no one's heart was beating, it's just in his mind. He thinks
Yep.
everyone's looking at him and thinking, "You're a murderer," right? That's like maybe a 140-year-old story. But, so that definitely can happen to people. I'm not willing to say different people have different attachment styles and different rules. I could never be in a relationship where someone said, "You can't have, female friends." I could never do that. But I must admit, there are people who basically have that rule, and I think they can lead happy lives. I think what hinges on here is and we don't know, were they attracted at one point? How do I know? How does anybody know? Is it I don't think that's something we can know conclusively. Me and Celeste can't. The attraction doesn't really matter. What really matters is him maintaining his boundaries, right? You can be attracted to somebody and because what if they just work together? You can't work with an attractive woman? What if she went to church with them? You can't go to church with an attractive woman? Do you see what I'm saying? Like you're not going to keep
Right.
all attractive people from them. So it's
Yeah.
really about just boundaries. Frankly, letter writer, you demonstrated that your boundaries are more porous than you admitted, which is to say that you said, I'm not doing anything dishonest, then you did something dishonest. Now he trusts you less. Makes sense to me. I would think that if you were writing this letter and you had something on him, you would put it, meaning all the
Right.
times they were sneaking around. Frankly, you said he texted things like happy birthday or Merry Christmas. Well, guess what? My grandma texts me that too. But can
Yeah.
I not hang with her no more?
But because of this part right here is the reason why it feels harder to see it happening because this part of I believe. So then like every I get a bunch of happy new year, happy whatever texts every year. Um and so like that's just standard. Sorry. That's just standard. And so I'm going to get to your question at the end. You're asking, am I, because I just wanted to break that down because it was a lot. Um, am I being toxic? Am I the problem? Can you guys talk about reasonable boundaries in opposite sex friendships while in relationships? And I agree with Jeff. Like, and my like everybody's relationship looks different. And if you don't establish that, whether at the beginning, middle, or at some point, you can't make an assumption that my partner shouldn't have opposite sex relationships with other people. In my relationship, we both have friends on both spectrums. But we're very in a secure, even when we were dating, it's always been that way. I've never thought like, oh my gosh, he shouldn't be having female friends. And I'm not saying if that's the setup of your relationship is wrong, because everybody's dynamic and boundaries are gonna look different, right? So when you say, can we talk about reasonable boundaries? I think this is something that you two should talk about to see um, are you just upset about the female because you cut yours off? Like, do you really, or do you not really have a problem with it? Like, really being honest with yourself is going to be important.
Yeah, I agree with all that. The terms, am I being toxic? Am I the problem? I don't find those very useful here because I
No,
get that
I
this is
don't.
complicated. This is not, I don't think you should label yourself toxic or even
No,
a
don't do
problem.
that.
The problem in this case is that the communication is not specific enough. Here's what I might do. I might say, boyfriend, I'd like to clarify something. Did we make a deal that I wouldn't have any male friends, or did we make a deal that I wouldn't hang with that male friend anymore? If he says no male friends at all, then you say, well, then I think that should be for both of us. And if he says no, just that dude, then you say, okay, that makes some sense to me because I was dishonest about that dude, even though I do not admit to doing anything with him because I didn't. Uh, if instead you determine I just can't live with this makes me sick. Every time they talk, if I see them texting and he's keying, then I suddenly get angry. You do get to say, you know what, I'd like you to cut her off. And I want to say you get to say that. You get to say a lot of things.
Yeah.
But if he says, of course not, then what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're going to leave him over that? Or
Yeah.
you're going to be like, then I'm just going to be passive aggressive about it. Like, if I could pick anything for you in the absence of evidence bigger than that he texted her happy New
Yeah.
Year, I would pick that you do the inner work of accepting that he wasn't dishonest, and so he doesn't have to make any accommodations.
Yeah. And I feel like the relationship outside of this seems to be going well, or else you probably would have added more. People will add more stuff if it's like other things happening or if he's done something crazy. So because now you're building this stuff up in your head, this is not just for the situation in general. When your thoughts are going, it starts to continue to look for evidence to make it true. Like it's literally working to continue to rationalize your thoughts. And so it's important to do what Jeff says is like that inner work and really being mindful, because to if you guys have a good relationship going on outside the situation, like is it worth not being in it, or is it worth being passive aggressive all the time?
Right? Exactly. There's a this framework's not perfect, but it's useful. It's attachment styles. This idea. So there's avoidant, secure, and insecure attachment
Yeah.
styles. This is the basic idea. Avoidant people push people away when they. This is I'm talking fast. Avoidant people push people away when they get too close. Insecure people are constantly worried that people are leaving, and so constantly seeking to pull them closer or get reassurance. And then secure people, what Celeste described in her marriage, which is each person trusts the other person, and they don't need. So, for example, some people say, if you don't text me every day, then I consider us broken up,
Yeah.
right? And I would say that there's something insecure about that, right? That you need to text me every morning because I constantly have this timer on me that goes, do they not love me anymore? Do they not love me anymore? Do they not love me anymore? So I need constant proof. And then conversely, avoidant people are people, their biggest worry is that someone's going to smother me, that I'm going to let them in and then they're going to drown me.
Hmm.
They're gonna drown me and I won't be able to breathe. It'll feel like someone holding a pillow over my face. And so when they feel someone saying, I'd like a little more closeness, they go, I knew you were going to do this. Get away from me. And what you're just this is just one letter. We don't know everything, but you're describing somewhat of in the absence of evidence, it's a little bit insecure. I'm
Yeah.
not calling you toxic or the problem, but
No.
what's insecure is in the absence of evidence, you still have all these boiling doubts. And so the inner work is to realize, like, you know what? It's one thing if I surprise him at his house and she's walking around the house in a t-shirt and no bra, okay, now a big thing has happened.
Wow.
Right. I
Unless we
get
have an open relationship, like we're gonna
right.
have to talk about that.
Now a big thing has happened. That's different.
Mhm.
Texas again. I'm kind of reading a lot into what you didn't say. If you could have said they text each other, she texted him a bathing suit selfie, then I'd
Yeah.
be like, "Ooh, I do get it. My
Yeah.
male friends don't do that with me." If you'd have said that they had a sleepover, but he claimed that they just both fell asleep. Okay, I do get it. I do get your suspicion.
Mhm.
All you said was you suspected there once was an attraction, and they text each other "Merry Christmas."
Yeah. Yeah.
That to me is a little bit of the telltale heart where nothing has actually happened, but you
Yeah.
just bum 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 bum. And
Yeah.
so I think you start with the inner work in that conversation. Hey, is the rule no opposite sex friendships, or is that one guy banned?
Right. And for couples, people in a relationship, when Jeff talks about like start with the conversation, when I'm working with individuals and I am helping them go get through like some couple situations, I say remember that it may not be a one-time conversation. Don't go into it expecting for a solution. I'm a whole therapist, so when I talked to my husband before I did my work, I was like, "Listen, this is the treatment plan," and then I had to tell myself I don't get mad at my clients when they don't get it right away. So it took a lot. And I'm a whole therapist. So I just want to say that like it's hard when you are in a relationship and you're trying to deal with an issue. Especially when you can I'm on the outside, like when you're on the outside, you can see things a lot clearer. And it's easy for me to be like, oh yeah, Jeff, all you got to do is blah, blah, blah. It could be the same shit I'm trying to figure out, but I'm sitting here telling him all he has to do. And I hear people talk about, they'll be talking about something. They'll be like, yeah, I told her. And I was like, sounds like you need to take some of your advice. And it's so easy to do that. So for people in a relationship, when you are going to have a conversation about whatever because you're struggling, know that we may have to put a pin in it. We may have to pause it, right? Let's schedule another time and come back to it. Don't expect it to just go like this right away.
I couldn't say it any better. Perfect.
Good. So I'm gonna wrap this up. But I want to know what are your thoughts about everything? And as you're thinking about that, I just want people to know every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'll be coming on and I'll be talking about a subject live. I'll do it on Zoom and also on social media. And then I'll open it up for questions. It's going to be called What's on Your Mind Wednesdays. I told my husband about the thought and I was like, I need a name for it. And then he's so smart. He was just like, oh, what's on your mind Wednesdays? And I was like, that is so dope. So I can't take credit for it. My marketing team, when people say they got a team, sometimes it be the people in the house.
There you go.
My marketing team came up with it. So make sure that you tune in for that. And so it'll be every Wednesday. It's free. My goal is to help continue to push the needle around wellness. It feels so unattainable at times for people. So, and as I was joking with him at the beginning about he deserves a medal, but I have a similar reason as to why I do what I do is because I recognize how much people are struggling and how it's the cycle. So, but if you can wrap up our conversation today and let people know what your thoughts are.
I can't remember the first question. What was the first question again?
The first question was, I've been seeing a guy for 5 years. We started off just having fun. Oh, they want to figure out how they can have a conversation to talk about like what are the next steps, if any.
What all these really had was a big component of the inner work, which is to say, the first letter writer needs to figure out what it is that they really want before and they weren't putting in these terms, before they confront anyone about, you're not giving me what I really want, but make sure you know what you really want first. The second letter writer, about motivation, the inner work, discarding motivation, picking up commitment, discipline, that's all inner work, right? It has nothing to do with the world or anything. It's all to do with you.
Excellent.
And this letter writer, again, certainly starting with the inner work, right? The inner work of you're having a conversation, but you're mostly doing the work of trying to fight that insecure impulse to just assume that you're being betrayed when you certainly offered no evidence of it. I'm not saying you couldn't possibly be being betrayed.
Right. Yeah.
There was no indication other than the person is a woman.
Right.
So there you go. The inner work, which is my favorite. You know why I like the inner work so much, Celeste?
Why?
You have so much more influence over yourself than you have over
I know. And that's why you get stuck a lot, because the inner voices are typically bullying and negative and not yours. And so when you start to change that voice, I always tell people you have so much power over your situation than you realize.
I agree. You got a lot of power when you let go of the idea that my life will be good when other people change. As soon as you let go, you'll do so much better. That's not to say that everything will be perfect. Sometimes other people really are in your way. But if you think it's easy to change yourself.
Yeah.
If you say, well, it's hard to change myself, then how hard is it going to be to change them when they're not even motivated?
Yeah. Oh, thanks, right? Phoenix. When you was talking about the lobster story, I was thinking about, we heard that at the live show.
Right. Phoenix, that was an example of a guy who in his head seemed to have made an implicit contract that Phoenix was going to be his baby mother if he bought her enough steak and lobster. And she was like, I didn't promise that. I like steak and polite platonic company. And that guy, and then some people in the audience, because it was live, were like,
that's crazy. They
were acting like she was embezzling. And it's like, she's not embezzling. Unless she said, I exchange physical intimacy for a steak and lobster, then you didn't cut that deal. That's that. Maybe they just saw the name Phoenix Fire and said, well, she got a name like an action star, so she's probably mad live. But it turns out, no, she's not.
Jeff, tell people how they can reach you.
Yeah, if you need me, you can my website rogersleads.com. You can reach out Jeff at Rogers Leads, and that's that.